It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of February 18th, 1994. Four movies to look at, so let's just jump right on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, the only directorial effort from Steven Seagal, and that is the action thriller On Deadly Ground.
In this land of frozen beauty, where a proud people make their home, Aegis Oil is making a killing.
People here want to talk about the poisons in their environment.
If Aegis Oil is not online and operational in 13 days, then the oil rights will revert back to the Eskimos, and that is not going to happen.
We're talking!
But there is hope. And now, he's here. Steven Seagal is on deadly ground.
So we need to get off right off the bat. I figure we'd stop there because really, that's all you really need to see about this movie. I mean, we should bring up that the only reason that Steven Seagal even agreed to do Under Siege 2, which would come out the following year, was if he got a chance to direct his own movie, and this was that movie. Well, thankfully, Under Siege 2 was made, and it actually made for a much better film because, wow, this is bad. This is atrociously bad, and there's a lot of areas that you can look at from this and see how bad it really is. The fact that Steven Seagal has no lack of direction whatsoever, the fact that he wasted a stellar cast. I mean, Michael Caine, Joan Chen, John C. McGinley, Arlie Ermey, Billy Bob Thornton. You would think that with a cast like that you can make something out of something, but guess not. But not only that, we have to have an uber excessive amount of violence. Like, violence in an action movie can be fun, but not the way this movie does. I mean, there's a person if somebody gets killed in this movie so brutally, so pointlessly brutally, it makes no sense to the plot whatsoever, and has actually been cut down in international versions of it because it is just so unnecessarily dark. Like, it's absolutely, completely pointless, and I have no idea what the hell Steven Seagal was thinking when he thought that would be a good idea, but it's in there. But let's not even get into. But that's not even the worst thing about it. Steven Seagal's character is just one of the biggest hypocritical douchebags you will ever see. The guy's name is Forrest. Mistake number one. Mistake number two, his whole idea of how he views the situation, how he views his job, and like, oh, he's working for the good guys and all that, and like, dude, Michael Caine is clearly playing over the top, and I will say that's the one thing about this movie that has going for it, is that Michael Caine knows he has to play an over-the-top bad guy in this, and he completely delivers on it. He's really the best thing about this movie, while also being the worst thing about it, too. Okay, I take that back, Steven Seagal, but you get what I mean. But Steven Seagal, just like, he really has no idea what he wants to say with this movie at all. This movie just feels like an amalgamation of the ego of Steven Seagal trying to put an environmental message in here because it's the early 90s and we got to put these environmental messages not just in kids' films, but we got to put them in our action movies now. And it's just offensively bad. It's offensively bad to so many different people. It's offensive to Eskimos, which is, I didn't think you could do that, but this movie surely did just that. It's offensive to environmentalists. It's offensive to people who want to see good action movies. It's offensive to people that ever thought. It's offensive to Steven Seagal fans because this is not what we come to see Steven Seagal movies for. We come to see Steven Seagal movies, the best Steven Seagal movies is to watch him kick your ass and take names. And like, even though his movies really have not been that good as of late, especially as of late. I mean, how many direct-to-video movies has he done? But even those have a so bad it's good type of level to them. But this is just, it's amazing how far this movie goes to think that nobody's going to notice all the notable flaws about this film. It's a bad movie. It's a really terrible movie. And it's one of the things that kind of killed Steven Seagal's career, because after this, I mean, yeah, he had Under Siege 2, but even then, that was not as good as the original film. Or at least I think that, because, here's the thing, I haven't seen Under Siege 2 in a while, so we will eventually get to that one when we get to 1995, and by then I will have seen it again. But as far as I know, I don't think it's as good as the original film. But who knows? My thoughts on that may have changed. But other than that, Seagal's filmography after this really goes downhill. I mean, he made some really, really bad movies, but this one may definitely be one of his worst ones, just for the fact that it's badly hammering a message that I don't think even he knows what he's trying to do here. But that's I could go into more in this, but I'm already close to 5 minutes on this particular segment here, and we got to move along. So, On Deadly Ground, one of the worst movies of the year, easily one of the worst Steven Seagal movies ever made. So, anyway, on that note, let's go to the next movie. And the next movie we have here is Nick Nolte and Shaquille O'Neal in Blue Chips.
Stupid or otherwise? All right, Alan?
Yeah, Coach, we'd like to hear your side of the basketball kicking incident.
Alan, you used up your question. That was stupid.
I will not have the first losing season in 40 years at this university.
You are not getting the kind of athletes that we used to.
Yeah, but the program's clean, Chancellor.
It is time to tell Coach Petey Bell to take a hike.
I don't do well with losing, do I?
You've won 2 national championships. You've won 8 conference titles. I don't call this losing.
What efforts are you and your staff making as far as recruiting is concerned?
We got the inside track on some great ball players this year.
You get those guys, you are in the Final Four next year.
Let's get these guys.
He's never been coached. He's totally raw.
Neon, please try not to step on the children.
Okay, all right. If I couldn't play basketball, would you be trying to get me in college?
No.
At least you're honest. I figure a white blue chip athlete like myself deserves something extra, about 30 grand. Like to have it in cash.
Get the hell out of here, Richie. Get out of here.
All the other schools are doing it, coach.
I know everything. I know what Butch McRae's mother wants.
You really want your son to start out life by learning how to bend and break the rules. I mean, what's he going to become? A millionaire?
I did not authorize the car for Ricky, but you did authorize the friends of the program to do what had to be done.
He bought him, Charlie. I know he bought him.
We're gonna be on top again.
Did you cheat? A foul is not a foul unless the referee blows his whistle.
Did you take money?
No.
We owe them this money.
Don't talk to me about money. We owe it to him.
So basically the premise of this movie is that Nick Nolte is playing a college basketball coach who's basically trying to recruit a winning team. And honestly, this is something that we've seen done time and time again in other sports. I mean, just this past year, we had Lincoln Riley going to USC, trying to recruit all these major superstars to the college football circuit from all these other teams into one super team. And look at what happened afterwards. They didn't really do anything. I mean, they got a winning record, and they didn't win the championship for the was it the Pac-12? The Pac-12 championship, because Utah beat them a couple weeks ago. But a couple weeks from the time that this was recorded. So, but yeah, you basically have him assembling a team that actually includes notable basketball stars, including Shaquille O'Neal, which I just mentioned, and also Penny Hardaway. We also get cameos from notable figures such as Bobby Knight, Rick Pitino, Larry Bird, Dick Vitale, Louis Gossett Jr. also is in here. You also see Alfre Woodard, Ed O'Neill, Mary McDonnell, and in a way, it's kind of reminiscent of something like The Program, which we looked at before in a video from last year. But here's the thing: unlike The Program, I actually prefer this movie better. Like, I do think it's a legitimately decent film. Is it a great film? No. There's still a lot of notable flaws about it. Most of the acting overall is pretty good. The story is a little bit too much. And honestly, I think a movie like Moneyball did this kind of thing much better. Like Moneyball, which was basically about the story of the Oakland A's and how they tried to recruit a championship team with this revolutionary thing that they did. That was a great movie, and that came out in 2011, which one day we'll eventually get to that. But I think what makes this one stick out more are the performances. I think Nick Nolte is very good here. You know, we talk smack about Shaquille O'Neal's acting career. Yes, he made Kazam. Yes, he made Steel. But when he actually has to star in something where he has to take on a more when he has to act. Like, I thought he did a pretty good job in this movie. I actually thought he was actually really solid in this particular film. And it's just a shame that nobody really ever gave him a really good script to work with. They just basically said, we need to turn you into a movie superstar, so we're going to give you these two terrible scripts that we have here with Kazam and Steel, which we'll delve more into when we get to those movies eventually. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy this movie. I don't think it's a great film overall. I think it is a heavily flawed movie, even with some great talent involved with the writing and direction. You got William Friedkin of The Exorcist directing this, Ron Shelton of Bull Durham fame, and also White Man Can't Jump. Just some good talent on board. I think a better rewrite of the script maybe would have changed this around and made it really, really good. But as it is, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad to see it's a decent film. It could have been a whole lot better, but for what it is, I thought it was alright. So that's my thoughts on Blue Chips. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Ben Stiller's directorial effort, the ensemble comedy Reality Bites.
Hello, you've reached the winter of our discontent.
I'm making this documentary about my friends, but it's really about people who are trying to find their own identity without having any real role models or heroes or anything.
It seems like your friends would be perfect for that.
I truly believe that if we can get 2 women on the Supreme Court, we can get at least 1 on you, Sam.
I lost my job.
Why did you get a job at Burgerama?
I was valedictorian of my university.
Well, you don't have to put that down on your application.
Do you have any idea what it means to be a cashier at Wiener Schnitzel?
There you go, sir. And have a tune, Wiener dude.
A couple of smokes, a cup of coffee, and a little bit of conversation. You and me and $5.
You got it. He's strange, he's sloppy, he's a total nightmare for women. I can't believe I haven't slept with him yet.
Are you religious?
I guess I'm a non-practicing Jew.
Hey, I'm a non-practicing virgin.
Did he dazzle you with his extensive knowledge of mineral water?
He's not a yuppie.
What is your glitch, huh?
My glitch?
And why are you acting like a jealous boyfriend all of a sudden? Hi.
You look beautiful. You look like a doily.
I think the moment has been appropriately captured.
One of a number of many Gen X movies we were getting around the time period, stuff like Singles, Empire Records, Airheads, but this one was probably the most notable one of the bunch, mostly with the cast that they had involved here, including Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, Janine Garofalo, Steve Zahn, and of course Ben Stiller, but you also had a pretty stacked cast overall of people in the supporting cast, including Swoosie Kurtz, Andy Dick was in here, Keith David, Karen Duffy, Joe Don Baker, John Mahoney, David Spade was in this movie, Gene Triplehorn. Just a really solid cast overall, and an overall pretty enjoyable movie. I think it works mostly because of the performances. This is a chance for people like Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, and Ben Stiller to really show off their potential, the potential that they would later show on in their careers. And for Ben Stiller, he proved early on that he could be a really good director. Because, of course, he did this, and then later on he would direct other movies such as Tropic Thunder and The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Both are excellent, excellent movies. And this movie has gone on to have cult status over the many years since its release. And you can definitely see why. It's a movie that really captures the zeitgeist of that 1990s early grunge scene that was going on at the time period. And like I said, it's a perfect representation of the Generation X, pretty much. And it's still a movie that honestly still kind of holds up even to this very day. There are still a lot of elements in here that do still hold up after all these years, despite the fact that it does seem very dated at times, but it's still a very solidly made movie. If you haven't seen Reality Bites, definitely check it out, because really, you will not be disappointed by this movie at all. So that's Reality Bites. Let's move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is The Life and Times of Allen Ginsberg.
Today's revolutionary is often passé tomorrow, and I suppose one of the true tests of creativity and radicalism is the ability to endure through changing times and fashions.
Mr. Allen Ginsberg is, according to the New York Times, quotes, perhaps the most famous and admired contemporary American poet.
I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix.
I just never
read any poetry that was that charged, that intense, that extraordinary, and I knew he was going to make a revolution in the consciousness of his time.
You know, this is the real heavies in our mythologies. Kerouac, Cassidy, Ginsberg.
So this is basically a documentary talking about the life of Allen Ginsberg, the famous poet who talks about his early childhood to his thoughts about death at the age of 66. He would actually die 4 years after this movie came out. And the movie had been around for a while, and it actually got a full release at the Sundance Film Festival in 1993, and then a year and a half later, it eventually got a release. So you're basically looking at the life of this famous poet who who is most associated with the Chicago 10, and there's actually been several movies about his life, basically made, including I'm Not There, most notably the How, Kill Your Darlings, what the hell am I saying? Poem My Daisy, these are movies based off of his most notable poems, and I really don't know too much about him. I haven't seen this movie, so I can't really comment on it too much, but it does make for some it does look like an interesting documentary, and you have these notable names they keep showing in here. William S. Burroughs, like Neil Cassidy, Jack Kerouac, Gary Snyder, these notable names here that you may not be know by name, but you definitely know their work before. So, but like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it too much, but it does look like an appeasing documentary. Maybe I'll check it out one day, but it's not something I'm really rushing out to see right now. It came out this weekend. I felt like I needed to talk about it, so there you go. The Life and Times of Allen Ginsberg. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll end February next time around with Wesley Snipes and Sugar Hill. We also have 8 Seconds starring Luke Perry and directed by John G. Avildsen of Rocky fame. And finally, Silent Tongue. So we'll look at those 3 movies next time around. But until then, thank you very much for watching. And as always, if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.